Night's Dean Obeidallah Show. Thursday, September 24th, 40, as in 40 days into the most important election of our lives. Can you believe it's just 40 days from now? In fact, there are many states, including Michigan, began early voting today, and numerous states have already. It is Judgment Day for our nation. And after what Donald Trump said last night, it is very clear. This race is not really Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. It is Donald Trump versus American democracy. Those are the stakes. And if you don't know what Trump said last night at his press conference, he was asked by a reporter, do you commit to a peaceful transition of power if you lose this election? And what did Trump said? Quote, we're going to have to see what happens. We're going to have to see what happens. And then when the reporter pressed Donald Trump going, will you not commit to a peaceful transition of power? Trump said at an odd demand. So he actually had a demand he made before he would do that. He said, you have to get rid of the ballots. Get rid of the ballots. That's certainly an odd statement in a representative democracy where our ballot is our voice. But this is a man openly calling for less voting. He wants less votes because he thinks he can control it. And he went on to say, I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster. Of course, what he's talking about, I guess we can assume, are the mail-in ballots. What's remarkable is there's no facts to support this man's lies. Numerous states have had mail-in ballots for years, or 5 states before this year that did it. There's no evidence of widespread fraud. But then again, Donald Trump's a serial liar. And here's the truth. Donald Trump knows there's no evidence of fraud. He 100% he knows it. And why can I say that? Because now we know, thanks to Bob Woodward, that Donald Trump understood how deadly COVID-19 was and then lied to the American people about it. It wasn't like he wasn't sitting in his briefings or not reading the daily briefings. We learned from Bob Woodward's tape a few weeks ago, on February 7th, Donald Trump understood that COVID-19 was 5 times more lethal than the seasonal flu. He understood it was easy to transmit. But what did he do? 3 weeks later, Donald Trump looked in the camera at the White House briefing on COVID-19. It was the second COVID briefing. And told the American people it's just like the flu. And he repeated that lie over and over. So since Donald Trump knew that was a lie, we have to assume he understands this is a lie as well. That he's lying because just like with his lies on COVID-19, he thought that could help him. He thinks now lying to the American people about mail-in ballots can help him again. The reality is Donald Trump's condition to agree to peacefully transfer power if he loses and getting rid of these ballots, it's not happening. It's not happening not because I'm saying it, because 67% of Americans in a recent poll want to use mail-in ballots. 67%, including a big swath of Republicans, including Republicans in key swing states like North Carolina and Wisconsin, which have been spending thousands of dollars to inform people, make sure you request your mail-in ballot. Make sure you get your absentee ballot. Or in states where you're going to get it automatically, make sure you fill it out. But Donald Trump doesn't care what the rest of the Republican Party is about because Trump only cares about Donald Trump. That's the reality. So the question is, and I think this is so important, if Donald Trump loses this election, and keep in mind, today, the Real Clear Politics average of polls, so this is an average of polls, at the same time 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton was up by about 2 points. And that same average of polls today, Joe Biden is up by over 7 points. Barring a miracle, Donald Trump's going to lose this election, probably badly. So the question I have is, who is Donald Trump going to look to keep him in power? Who will he turn to? And there's a few. I have 3 different proposals of what he might look to. One, he might look to the military. It's unrealistic. I don't believe the patriotic members of our military are going to take to the streets and put down their fellow Americans to keep someone like Donald Trump in power. And if Donald Trump thinks they're going to, he might want to take a look at a new Military Times poll, nonpartisan Military Times, of active duty soldiers. Guess what? 41% support Biden to 37% supporting Trump. And that was before Trump's comments smearing the brave service people who lost their lives in World War I, where he called them as suckers and losers. So I imagine the support's even lower. So number 2, will it be Bill Barr using the Supreme Court. I imagine that's a first instinct of his, especially that's why he's trying to rush now to fill RBG's seat. The reality is, even Neil Gorsuch, who he picked, has turned against Trump on certain cases. In fact, a few months ago, Neil Gorsuch was the lead justice on a case expanding the Civil Rights Act to provide protection for the LGBTQ community. The very thing Trump was arguing against in federal court. His DOJ was arguing against doing that, but Gorsuch rejected it. Now, I'm not saying rely on the kindness of conservative justices, but when push comes to shove, many of them will be loyal to the Constitution over Donald Trump, meaning a fabricated lie, a fabricated tale of why the election's a fraud, they're not going to embrace. Third, then, that leaves us with Donald Trump's supporters. Is he going to call on them to rise up to keep him in power? And I want you to remember this, because this is the most alarming part. For months now at rallies, Donald Trump has been priming his base to do just that. He's been telling them, quote, the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. So he's telling them, the only way we lose, not we, him, only way Trump loses if the election is rigged. So now they believe him like they do on everything, that Trump can't lose. And if he does, it's been stolen. So will they rise up? Many of them are armed, take to the streets. We can't remember the MAGA bomber who sent out a terrorist in the name of Donald Trump, sending bombs to people. We can't forget other Trump supporters who are involved in hate crimes. Just recently, a Trump supporter traveled from his state of Illinois to Kenosha to go hunting and kill 2 people, and Trump supporters defending that person. Other Trump supporters with their Trump flags went to Portland and shot people indiscriminately with paintballs, which is a crime. That's called assault. And Donald Trump defended that. But still, let's be blunt. Even among the Trump base, those who will rise up and use violence is a very, very small subset. Not enough really to move the needle. They would be easily arrested or worse by the law enforcement. So that's not going to work. But the thing is, I want the media to ask Donald Trump at his press conference tonight, and especially Tuesday at the first presidential debate where Chris Wallace is the moderator, and say to Donald Trump, you said you will not agree to a peaceful transition of power. So who are you going to ask to keep you in power? Because that's the big question. Because he'll tell us. This is not a guy who's bashful about anything. He'll tell us, whoever it is, we need to know so we can protect our republic. And he might think the military. He might think his supporters are going to rise up. We need to know that. And if he thinks his supporters are going to rise up, then we need law enforcement right now to do even more surveillance of Trump cells. We should call them Trump cells, like terrorist cells. The guys with guns who are going to threaten people. They go to the streets and have killed people, like Kyle Rittenhouse, anyone connected to him. These Trump cells must be surveilled. But still, it's a small number. Look, the bottom line is this. Other generations before us have had to come together and fight Nazism. Our generation, and this is not a generation defined by age, but by values, we are called to stand up to defend our nation against Donald Trump. It is up to us. It's that simple. Here's the best part. There are so many more of us than them. Look at the polls. Joe Biden leading by over 7% on a national level. But those polls don't mean votes. And it's up to us to get people to turn out. There is a gap between registered voters and likely voters supporting Joe Biden. Meaning registered voters say, yes, I'm supporting Biden. But then when they ask, are you a likely voter? That number goes down about 3 to 4 points. We've got to get that 3 to 4 points of people out to vote. Just 1 or 2 percentages of them, and this is over. Let's do that. Let's stand up for our country. This election is not about Trump versus Biden. It's Trump versus our democracy. People stand on one side or the other. I hope you stand on the side of our democracy. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight, my show is live, 6 to 9 p.m., Sirius XM channel 127. I hope you'll check it out. Some great guests tonight. We got Christina Greer, Linda Sarsour live from Kentucky, where she's been for months working for Justice for Breonna Taylor. She'll talk about what's going on down there. And Maria Inosa about her great new book about her tale, coming here as an immigrant from Mexico and rising up to being an award-winning journalist and breaking barriers for herself and for others. So thanks for tuning in to the Dean Opie